All right, the FTSE 100 index in the UK, of course, the largest companies listed in London surged in the first minutes after opening. Yesterday, the index saw its biggest loss in more than 3 decades after closing down more than 10%. Let's get the market update from Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon. Well, there was a big swing on the global market today after the initial fall, but some say this might as well be a dead cat bounce. What are the market numbers saying at the moment?
Well, there's a triple-digit fall, a triple-digit rise on the FTSE all-share at Intraday. It was the same this morning. It's not enough, but it's still better than yesterday's bloodbath. The all-share is up 4.17%. The FTSE 100 is up by 4.80%, and the FTSE 250 is up by 1.80%. In currencies, the pound is down on the dollar by 0.06%, up on the euro by 0.28%, and up on the Japanese yen by 1.69%. Of course, I'm sure you guys have heard that the English Premier League and all elite football in the UK will be suspended for a minimum of 3 weeks. So it would be interesting to see at the closing of day just how the gambling stocks are reacting. Yesterday, 400 million was wiped off their share value. It's just a hint. I haven't yet got any update on what their shares are doing at the moment, but I can tell you they're likely to be down. But IAG, the mother company of British Airways, their shares are up by 11%. And that's really because the focus at the moment, Jimmy, seems to be shifting back to China. Over the past couple of days, they have reduced the number of cases that they're disclosing, which means these quarantine lockdown measures that they have embarked upon could actually stop the spread. So there's a little bit of excitement, but still not enough, considering yesterday £140 billion was wiped off the FTSE.
We'll wait and see what happens in a couple of weeks. Anyway, the Financial Conduct Authority has banned investors from shorting shares in some European firms. What is the implication of this? Some say the short-selling ban is pointless.
Well, if you're a trader and you like making money, which all of them do, then yes, they wouldn't be happy at the banning of this short selling. In the UK, they've only banned the short selling until 4:30 local time, which I believe is 5:30 in Nigeria today. And that's really just to support what's been happening in Italy and Spain. Yesterday, 12% was wiped off the Spanish stock exchange. In Italy, 17% was wiped off. And really what the regulators want to do is to stop investors making a buck because of the low value of shares. So basically what short selling is for dummies is when an investor borrows a stock from somebody, sells it to somebody else, and then tries to buy it back at a cheaper price to return to the initial investor when the stocks are low. It goes on in all trading floors, but of course we're in unprecedented circumstances, and so they've just tried to minimize that for a couple of days. So yes, a lot of people are not happy, but considering just how much is being wiped off the global exchanges across the world, regulators think that this is the right time to stop people profiting from a downfall.
It's been a tumultuous week. What is the outlook for next week?
Gosh, what's the outlook for next week, Jim? If only I had a crystal ball to try and look at that. But I think really, especially if you're in London, I think we're going to be looking at what's happening in Italy. Italy now is the worst infected place of COVID-19 outside of Europe. All the trajectories consider Britain moving in that same way. On Tuesday, they took that unprecedented decision to lock down practically everything except from some supermarkets and some pharmacies. Now, if we start seeing over the weekend that these cases of COVID-19 and deaths start to reduce, then there'll be a lot of attention going into Boris Boris Johnson and finally asking him to kind of shut down schools and to start this social distancing. So that's one thing. Of course, as well, tonight, Friday night, we're getting that ban from the Schengen zone of anybody travelling into the US. And it's not just the Schengen zone. It's really important, especially for our viewers in Nigeria. If you've travelled within the Schengen zone in the last 14 days, you also won't be able to go to America. So it will be interesting to see just how this is going to affect people over this weekend. And then, of course, there's Brexit, which we haven't spoke about probably at all this week, Chimase. There are supposed to be some talks. A lot of them have been cancelled, but then there are video conference calls. So there's so much that we'll probably be discussing, but it's likely that COVID-19 or the coronavirus will still dominate headlines throughout the week.
Well, for now, Juliana, let's take a breather for the weekend and wait and see what happens next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.